Hey guys, so today we are going to do a bubble build with some API calls, and specifically we're going to set up an API call with the GPT or ChatGPT API and just get it to generate some text responses. Cool, let's get started. Okay, so we are going to come over to Bubble. We're going to load up our app from the last two videos, but we're going to create a completely new page and we're going to build it from scratch. Wait for that to load. Alright, so here's our old image place. Now we're going to go to the top left. We're going to go add a new page and we're going to say AI response. Going from nothing, we're just going to go play on my page and build it from there. Okay, so before we get started there, we're going to go over to Notion here and we're going to go through our checklist. So the first one is to set up an interface. So we're going to go to the left here, grab a group. Drag that in. First thing you set the layout, we'll do it as a column. This top one, we're just going to give it full width. And in that top thing, all we're going to add is an input and a button. And this is where we're going to type our question and then click to send it to OpenAI. Okay, so this needs to change to a row. So now they have them two next to each other. And now these elements we're going to put into the middle and then center them as well. So this is going to be where our input or our question will go. Now in the bottom part, we're going to need to display the response from the AI as well. So we're going to put another group, that's a very small group there, and we'll give it a bit more height at 400. Cool. So now in this group over here is where the response will display. So all we're going to do is add a text element within there. We won't center that, but we'll fit the contents to width, fit the height to width, and then just add a bit of padding or margins on each side. Okay, so now we have the basic elements that we need to display. So we can tick off, there we go, we've set up our interface. Now we need to get into a little bit more complex, but we still are going to keep it basic in terms of this API call. So what we're going to have to do is go over to platform.openai. I will include the links to all of these in the comments or the description of the video. Okay, so now we're here on OpenAI's GPT interface, and we're going to go over here to the right to the API reference. And now we have all the documentation that we would need to set up a call. But we're going to go over here to the left and we're going to look for endpoints chat. And this is going to be our main information that we need over here. Okay, so let's go back into Bubble. We now have our basic interface. We're going to go over here to this thing called plugins. So we already have these two. We need to add one more, which is this, the API connector. Install. And then now we have our API connector. So now we can connect to external sites or databases and kind of give our application a bit more functionality. Okay, so we're going to call this ChatGPT call, and authentication none, self-handled. Let's expand this, and then this will be the chat request. Okay, and then now we've set the name, we're going to go over just over here, it says use as, and we're going to change that to action. Cool. And then over here, where it says get, post, put, patch, or delete, we're going to use a post. Okay, so we've set this to use as action, data type JSON, and a post type. So now we're going to go over here and we're going to look at this URL at the top, which is this one over here. We're going to go Control C, copy that, and we're going to put it over here into our post field. Now, when we send a request, it needs authorization. So we're going to add some headers as well. So our first key and value, we're going to go back to the API reference, and the first key is going to be the content type. So we're going to copy that, we're going to paste it, and then the key value is application/JSON. Okay, so now we're going to add another header. Go back here, and now we need authorization for our first key, and then our bearer, and then OpenAI key. Okay, so we can't put it like that because that's just a kind of filler or placeholder. So now we need to go and find our OpenAI key. But before we do that, we're quickly just going to go over here, which is here, this code. We're going to copy that, and then over here we're going to paste it into our JSON body. Cool, so now we just need to go get our API key, and for that you're going to go over here onto the OpenAI dashboard, API keys, and then we're going to add bubble.io API requests. There we go, we'll create the secret key, and we're going to copy this. I'm definitely going to delete this later, so if you don't have an account, you can sign up for one or reach out to me and we can try and make a plan if you want to play around with the OpenAI API. Cool, so we copy that API key, and now in place of this over here, we're going to paste. We can keep those two private, and then this is our call over here. So now we're going to make one change inside of this. Instead of this hello, we're going to go and move that, and we're going to put this bracket. We're going to say user input, and then another bracket. What this does over here is it allows that field to now be used in the front end of our application. So we'll wait that. This must be unchecked for private, and now we're going to initialize the call. Cool. So the call worked, and then you can see our raw data here. It will have done the first element of the response. Cool. So we're going to press save, and then now we've essentially set up most of the API call, and now we just need to set up the rest of the front end. Cool. So we set up the API call. Now we need to create data types and the chat messages. So we're going to go back to our design. This is all still here. Now we go to our data types. And in data types, we're going to just create, say, called AI chat. And we're going to create that. In here, all we're going to do is create one field. We're not going to make it a very advanced chat just yet. So this we're just going to call messages, and we're going to make that a text type. Cool, create. Cool, now we have a message type. So let's go back to our design, and now we're going to start configuring these things so that they display and work with the messages. So we're going to click on our button here, which will be, let's say, send. We'll rename that, and we're going to add a workflow. So now it'll say when this button is clicked, we want it to go to plugins, ChatGPT, chat request. Now, over here, it's asking for the user input. Remember, we put in an input field earlier that we're now going to link it to. So we're going to insert dynamic data, and then it's going to be input A. Input A's value. Cool. So now, essentially what that's going to do is it's going to take the user's text and send it to OpenAI, and OpenAI will send back a response, but now we need to record that response. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new thing. In the new thing, we're going to go to AI chat, over here, messages, and it's going to say, what is the message file, or what should the data that's recorded in the database be? And this is going to be the result from API call, which is result of step 1. It's choices, first item's message content. Cool, so now that's going to take the call, save that response into our database. But now we need to display it in the front end. Okay, so we go back to our design, and on this group B that's holding the text element, we're going to go to this eye icon on the right. We're going to say add custom state. So state name is going to be message display. And this is going to be type text. So there are a lot of different ways that you can do this. For this example, this is kind of an easy way to make sure that the latest message is displayed and that it doesn't have any kind of errors in that kind of method. Alright, so now we've created a state, but now we need to give it something to show. So we're going to go over here and we say set state of an element. That element is going to be this group B. So let's call that group output. And now over here we go group output, the custom state message display, and this can be equal to either the result of the API call or what you've just created in terms of creating a new message. Messages, cool. So now it's going to send a request, create something new, and then display that data on the front of the page. So we've now created our data types, created our workflows, and we've created the page text state. So all we need to do now is test the calls and see if it's working. So we load our page, and here we have our text field. We're missing one thing. So this text needs to go to group output, message display. So now that is going to take the text from the state and display it in that page. Let's go to our front end. Just refresh. And then now we can ask a question. Can you tell me what the average I can't think of a question. The average income is for South Africa. And we press enter or press send, and it should give us a generation of something at the bottom. Cool. So as the most recent data available in 2023, So that is essentially a very basic API call, which is kind of one shot. There's no real memory in the chat, but it is something that can give you some cool ideas for what you can build, and just shows you how easy it actually is to set up an API call and display the data in the front end of your Bubble project. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you will be able to incorporate this, maybe build some cool things. As always, leave a comment if you need to know anything further, or reach out if you want to get some further insights or information.